Put it in the right spot.
You can reverse it so it's video you there.
That's what I was gonna do.
Saturday sliced bread
You
till
can't sit
we
here
had
and say
spots come
snarky
up.
things.
Don't we learn how to get in this spot?
Want to, anyway.
We learned how to get in this spot.
Come on.
Boy, was nobody ever wronger than that, because
I lean back.
If it votes, just readjust it for me if you would.
Okay.
Am I in the frame right now?
You are.
But I'm actually.
Ryan, you want to start with it?
And I don't even. But Jack was a good guy. He used to water school like a madman.
Oh,
I see get an extra
Everybody got on the boat.
videographer.
That was the guy that really.
Sure, that's how that works.
I was back in my residential
You're
days.
gonna float that past them.
Yeah.
I think there were some extra chairs, ladies. There was, I don't know.
I thought he was talking to you.
You want to sit in there? Or you just-
no, yeah, this is fine. All right,
You're not in the frame.
that's all right.
You can move it this way if you want.
This is the Jeff Show.
Okay.
So, want to introduce myself. I'm Brian with Bostic, and this is Jeff with Fierce Distributing. Fierce Distributing is our local distributor for Bostic products, and we want to talk about urethane grouts, and our urethane grout is True Color, and this is a product that's been out for approximately 14 years. It's a really awesome product if you know how to work with it. And Jeff is really going to go through some of the trials and tribulations and tricks of how to work with urethane-based grouts. And we still work very hard in the architectural community to make sure that the product is specified, because it is a fantastic product, but it does have its challenges. And it's different, it's unique, the process of installing it's different. And so I'm gonna let Jeff kind of take over, and this is open. So if you have any questions, any feedback, any problems that you've been dealing with the product, fire away. I mean, that's what this is about, is for you guys to learn and understand, you know, the nuances of the product.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Brian. Like you said, I work for Fierce. We distribute the product. I am an installer. I started out as an installer. Once an installer, always an installer. And I know your challenges, believe me, I do. I didn't like the product at first, but as I progressed into the retail side of the business and then distribution, I realized it is the best thing for the end user. Urethane grouts are so highly stain resistant, and you guys being union installers are seeing this at Allegheny Health Network, especially UPMCs, a lot of schools, things like that. That's why our A&D rep, Jen Graham, she works hard to get this specified. The A&D community loves it. I know the installers aren't as fond of it because there is a little bit more work involved, but I assure you folks, if you do it right, you're gonna make your lives a lot easier. You're all familiar with Blaze. We have that as an insurance policy, but we don't wanna use that if we don't have to. So we're gonna show you a couple tricks to the trade. And these are tricks that I learned from the old timers or myself, and I'm sure you guys that are comfortable with this product kind of have your own way of doing it. Whatever works, we just don't want haze the next day. We don't want extra work. Humans take the path of least resistance, right? Time is money. We don't want to do extra work the next day. So before I get started, I just wanted to say thanks to everybody here. Fierce has been a long-time supporter of the union, and you being here says that you care about your trade, and I really appreciate that. So anyway, we're going to stay laser focused on True Color Grout. We're going to talk a little bit about Vivid, but I don't want to hold up your time. You got a lot to do, so we're going to keep this real brief. It's probably going to be 15 minutes, but we're in no hurry. So me and Brian are here after the demo to talk about levelers, ultra ramp, whatever you guys want to talk about. But just for the demo, we're going to keep it short and sweet and stay laser focused on True Color. Now, if you guys go to YouTube, everybody uses YouTube these days, you can YouTube Bostic True Color installation video. It'll pop right up. It's going to be almost exactly what I'm showing you here today, but we, as an installer again, and I got Brian's permission to show you what I do, I'm doing a little bit more, but the video is pretty right on spot. But there's a couple little tricks here I do that I found that just help me out personally. But what the video doesn't show you, or the bucket, is the pre-rinse. Now you can go out and buy a grout sealer or a grout release, and you can apply it to the towel before you grout. That's gonna help you tremendously. But I don't even know, does anyone know what grout release costs? 30 bucks a gallon? This is the same thing. I bought this on the way in Blairsville this morning, because I live up in Canterbury County. It was $1.24 at Walmart. Is it as good as a grout sealer? I'm not sure. I never tested it that way, but it works as a grout release.
Anytime.
$1.24, you get 30 jobs out of this. I mean, if they're average size jobs, the size of this room. So what you do, and I already pre-treated this, but I'll just a little bit. You put about a squirt for every gallon. I have 3 gallons of water in there roughly, so 3 squirts like that. Take your finger, or this Margins trowel's a little dirty, so I wouldn't recommend it, but just take your finger, the sponge, and you don't want to beat it like a washing machine so suds are flying out. You just want the water to turn blue, that's it. And then what you're gonna do is this sponge in this bucket will never touch any grout. This is a dedicated sponge, a dedicated bucket to the pre-rinse. And you notice I don't have water all flying out of it because I don't want water to fill up my joints. I just want to wet the surface of the towel, that's it, done. What happens and how that works is the Dawn dish liquid in that water, when the water evaporates, it's gonna leave behind a film. That's what acts as our grout release. Now you can get on this right away if you want to, or you can let the water evaporate and let it dry. Doesn't matter. Me personally, if I were to do a room this size, I would start there, pre-treat the whole room, it'd probably take 10 minutes. By the time I get there, that's already dry. So it doesn't matter. Either way works. But once you pre-treat it, you're ready to grout. I'm not gonna insult anybody by teaching them how to mix grout.
Wait, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Fire away.
Now, when I was, this is a long time ago when this first came out, first thing I would do when I opened that bucket is dump half that white crap right out of there.
No. You don't do that anymore, do you?
No?
Okay.
Well, I don't grout anymore, but, I mean, for grouting walls, if you leave all the white in, it'll run right off the wall. It'll sag. too
Yes, it
much.
will. It will.
So, I mean, how do you use it on walls if you're gonna mix all that white in there?
Okay, here's another trick of the trade. Brian, I don't even know if you knew this.
No, I'm listening.
I mean, that's,
The white on top, he's asking about the white on in the grout. That is the urethane binder. That's what gives it its stain resistance. If you were to dump that out, all you got is
I was
sanded
told by
grout.
Boston to do it.
No,
What?
I don't know who
This
was
is a
ever
long
told
time
you
ago.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was there.
Just like a drywall compound, if you ever open it up, you always have that thin layer at the top. That's the glue. You gotta reintroduce it, otherwise it won't stick to the wall. Same thing, that's the urethane binder, that white creamy. And I would have showed it to you, but I had already
Yeah, I knew
grouted a
you did,
panel,
but-
so I already had it mixed up. But you only wanna mix it with a margin trowel. You don't wanna mix it with a speed drill and introduce air into it. But you wanna mix that white urethane binder into it because that's what gives it its stain resistant properties and all the other, benefits that it has with it.
It's not the hardener?
That could be, Brian, can you comment on
Sure,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, True Color is a colored quartz aggregate and a urethane binder. So, yes, it is a hardener. So it will actually cure out, dry, and you'll get yourself an impervious grout joint. So, yeah.
So that's what makes it work. That's the point of it. So to always
I mean,
mix that
that's-
back in.
I know a lot of people do it.
Now, he said that it'll sag, especially in the corners. I know as an
It's like anywhere,
installer,
if
if you
you
get
got
it
a
your
quarter inch
corners,
joint, it ain't gonna work.
here's the key to that. Take it, get a piece of plastic, spread it out on your plastic, and just walk away for 10 minutes or find something to do. Let that, because it is a rapid set. It'll start to cure in 10 minutes. Just enough that it stiffens up, that it's a little more workable on your walls. That's just something I learned, especially
No,
the
it
color
makes
white.
sense.
Why is the color white a little runnier than any other color?
It does have a little bit of pigment in white.
Is that what it
So
is?
I don't know if that's what causes it. but-
So if you're using the color white only for some reason on walls, spread it a little bit out on a piece of plastic or a piece of curdy board or something, let it sit for 10 minutes, and get a little bit stiffer for your vertical applications. And again, I'm not gonna assault you guys by teaching you how to grout. I mean, everybody does it different. The point is, just get a smooth, consistent amount of grout the whole way into your joint. And I'll be the first to admit to you, I sell towel, I'm not a towel setter. I've done enough jobs, but I'm a carpet guy by trade, so I tend to make a nice mess when I grout. But just pack your joints, and then most manufacturers, including Boston, will tell you to come in at 45 on your final swipe. However you do it, I'm not knocking you, I'm not teaching you guys how to grout, that's up to you. I'm trying to emphasize on how we can save a lot of time by avoiding haze. So when we do our initial clean, you wanna have 2 buckets, 2 dedicated buckets. 1, 2 clean buckets. Now this sponge, when I rinse, this is one of the most important parts. Get all your water out. Brian, I'm gonna use you a guinea pig here. You want this just to be smooth. If you see any water fly out of the side, too much. That's how you want your sponge to be. And all you're gonna do on your initial clean, you're tooling your joint. You're not cleaning the top, you're tooling the joint. Circular motion, get your joints nice and smooth.
No pressure.
Yep. Now here's why we have the second rinse bucket. I'm gonna rinse, get that urethane off there and that grout haze. Then I'm gonna go to my second bucket and rinse again, so that my sponge is nice and clean. Now throughout the process, as this bucket starts to get a little cloudy, just rotate it, fill this one up, so you're not filling 2 buckets every time. And then I'm gonna make 1 pass, and again, I didn't show you, but if I'd have flung it, this has no water in it. 1 pass, go to the next one. Just 1 pass with a damp
bucket.
sponge. Because the problem that everybody's making is when you just keep wiping and wiping and wiping, and believe me, I did this all the time and I still want to do this because I'm an installer. You think immediately, I gotta get this clean. I can't leave haze on it. They keep wiping and wiping and wiping, and all you're doing is spreading that white urethane binder all over the top. So just 1 wipe, I'm gonna flip the sponge, that's it, I'm done.
So this process is every 2 to 8 feet, whatever you can reach.
Yep. Now you'll see, that's pretty clean, I left some here. But what I did was I grouted the panel right before you guys came in, and I left it a little bit excessive. This is your second wash. It probably shouldn't look like that, but I just wanted to overemphasize. This is your second wash. So just for purposes of continuity, I'm not gonna fill up more buckets. But let's say on my second wash, 2 clean buckets. This time, I want something a little more aggressive, and it's okay that I have a little more water this time, because here's the key. You have to wait long enough, and this is always gonna vary depending on the environmental conditions, how warm it is, and is there air moving, all those types of things. But when you fill the joint, and it's firm enough that it's not transferring your finger, you wanna get on it right away. Because now, when you're wiping across there, you're not just digging out grout and spreading it all over the top. But you don't wanna wait too long where it's fully cured on the face, because then that's where we all get in trouble. That's where the blaze comes in if we have to. Bonnie's shaking her head. You're at UPMC Mercy using this right now, yeah. Something a little more aggressive, a white doodle bug. And you can see, that's already hardening on this.
And when did you grout that?
Just,
Yeah, I've seen you grout it when I walked in.
yeah, Brian was here, what, 20 minutes ago? So there's a window, this is a rapid setting grout.
You said you should let it sit for a half an hour then.
It depends, Brian, like you said, you were on 2 different jobs and it reacted 2 different ways.
Yeah.
It's really site specific, just try to get on it as fast as you can without digging the grout out of the joint. And usually when you fill it and it's firm, you're ready. So it does take a little bit of elbow grease, but that white scratchy pad helps. And you don't want to do too big of an area at one time. So there I agitated it. Now is when you can wipe and wipe and wipe if you want, but still don't use a lot of water.
Don't leave a white spot.
Yep. Now you can wipe as much as you want until you get that surface.
Just no going into second wipe.
No, no.
Water.
Yep, this is just
I
water.
never used Dawn, I never tried.
Again, 2
Dawn
buckets.
is just the
I
pre-treat
don't
before you
use
grout.
that. I just taught a guy last week how to use it. And believe it or not.
But keep your sponge nice and moist. You don't want excess water still. And here's where you can wipe and wipe and wipe until you get it clean to your desired cleanliness. I'm pretty clean there. I got most of that leftover urethane off there, and you saw how it was caked on there. It really should never be that bad. Now, I call it a third cleaning. It's really not. You can do it right now, but this is just me as an installer. If I were to start my second cleaning over there, by the time I got to here, again, that would start to be dry over there. So I call it a third cleaning, but I could do it right now if I want. Bostik in their video will show you this sponge that has a microfiber side. I personally just prefer a microfiber towel. On my third cleaning, a little bit of Windex, and I don't know the science behind it, but it has to be alcohol based.
That works with every
Yeah.
grout
Then
there is.
your very last cleaning is just a microfiber towel. You should never have a haze. Now arguably, if you have a more porous towel, this is gonna be as easy as I just showed you. But if you do those steps, you should not have a haze the next day.
So what's the advantage of your product if I gotta,
It won't get
if
out
I
the
gotta
spot.
like,
But everything will shine. when you
change
put
water
that
every
stuff.
20 minutes?
You understand what I mean?
And
It just
wipe it
takes
3 times. What's the
little bit of
advantage
dust
there?
that's there.
There's
It's
zero
all-
advantage for
Dave
you,
was doing that
huge
for
pain in the
years.
butt. But the advantage is for the
That's
end
why I
user.
kinda
When we're
caught
doing
it.
healthcare, we don't want urine
But you wanna
and
go by windows.
mold spores and other things penetrating into the ground. We have to keep those environments very, very
I like the dry
clean.
dust on it.
Well,
So-
epoxy's a lot easier than that.
It won't
then.
make you-
I don't know about that. Does anyone think epoxy is easier than urethane?
Yeah.
I don't want to personally say that, but I don't want to disrespect Brian. I'm not an installer, you are.
Yeah,
But my experience, I don't think I'd want to use epoxy over urethane.
I would every day.
Okay. I know guys like you that like
Same thing.
epoxy. To each their own,
I
I
don't like
guess.
epoxy, but I prefer it way more than urethane.
Over urethane. That's interesting. I respect that. But the advantages for the end user, and that's why the A&D community likes it. Ease of maintenance, it's not gonna stain, and then the health aspect of it too. Now, that being said, you're gonna see that spec a lot. You guys are union installers, that's the kind of work you're doing. But where you have an option, we have a product that was designed just for the installer. It's called Vivid. Has anybody used our Vivid yet?
Yeah,
You have. Any complaints with that?
no.
Nope.
You can't screw it up. What Bostik did was they brought a bunch of, as everyone started to launch their premium cement-based products like the Permacolor Select and Mapei's FlexColor C, or not FlexColor, their FS. Bostik kind of sat back and they said, we're gonna wait. So what they did was they brought all these union installers and other people in, took their products, let them work with it, and they kind of did some research. What did you like, what did you didn't like? And then Bostik said, okay, we're gonna go to the lab and make our own, and they did. Brought everybody back, gave them different mixes, didn't tell them what it was, and 8 out of 10 installers picked Vivid. Because it was really designed based on you guys' feedback. It's very easy to use, there is a water content, I think it's 1.9 to 2.3 liters per 25-pound bag. But guys, that's eyeballing it, it doesn't matter. Want to mix it thicker on a wall or thinner on a floor, it is still gonna stay color consistent between the two applications. It's antimicrobial, it's fast setting, but it has a 1 hour work time in the bucket, truly. You might have to hit it with the margin trowel once in a while. But easy, 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 nice and fluid. At 1 hour it gets hot, you're done. So you do only have 1 hour. You can get on it in 3 hours. So if you have overnight work, a hospital corridor or something, you use our BAM fast setting mortar, our Vivid grout, ready for foot traffic the next morning.
Now, going back to the urethane for a second,
Yes, sir.
That person needs to retire.
is it still, like, when it first came out, they said you don't have, like, you could use it for expansion joints?
No,
Oh, no.
God,
'Cause
no.
I
No,
thought
it
it was
wouldn't.
supposed to
God,
dry, like,
no.
it was supposed to stay like 2%, like 98%.
No.
Like,
Well, it does. It will avoid, may I, Brian, or did you
No,
want?
fire away, man.
It never completely dries hard because of the DNA of the urethane, which
Yeah.
always is, inherently a little bit flexible. It's not meant to cover control joints, but
Okay.
where there's minor movements in your slabs,
Yeah.
it will absorb that movement up to like a 1/16 of an inch, whereas a traditional cement grout would always crack.
so like if you're doing like a shower and you're doing hard surface to hard surface,
No.
you could,
Change of planes?
yeah.
You're
No.
still per TCNA handbook supposed to use a silicone or a soft
Okay.
joint
Yeah.
or a Schluter BWA.
When this came out, I thought the same thing, and I went back and caulked every one of them, and that's when I was residential.
I know, that's what I mean, I just remember when it came out, I thought like that was like one of the things they said
No.
about it, and I just.
Wrong.
I couldn't-
Don't use it for that
No.
purpose.
No, I haven't yet.
But I'm telling you, if the movement is only minor, if the movement
Costs
is
you a
only
lot of money.
minor, it will absorb that movement, but it's gotta be minor. However, that's not what it's designed for. That's just an extra feature and benefit. But look how ridiculous this is, but I just wanted to show you. This is the Vivid.
Oh,
And when I first used Vivid, I was
Why are we
doing
using
24 by
that?
24s. It comes right off. That was a dry towel.
nobody should
Yeah,
ever
but if
do
you
that much grout on
don't
there.
wipe it first and make sure the joints are nice and full and flush and even.
You gotta tool your joint with this too. Yeah, absolutely. Good point. You just don't jam it
And
in
that
all
would,
the way.
and that would do that on a porous towel?
Yes, yes. Even, well, with porous towel, it's not magic. You might have to use a little more elbow grease. Instead of a dry towel, I'd probably use a white doodle bug with some
Yeah.
water, but it will come right out, I assure you. I did 24 by 24s on the outside of my house. I'm a geek, I towel everything. And the first time I used Vivid, I called Jamie, the rep, and I said, I want this to be a full joint, because when you wipe, you always dig a little bit up. He said, go ahead and tool it and walk away from it, come back the next day and clean it. I said, if I have any trouble with haze, you're driving in from Michigan and help me. And I'm telling you, it was a mess, wiped right off. Then I pressure washed it, it was beautiful. This stuff's amazing, it's for the installer. But your work's spec driven, so I understand you're not gonna see this as much as you are the True Color, especially with the nature of the healthcare
We
work
use-
you're doing.
What's the
We
cost
use
ratio
we use
versus one or
Vivid
the
a
other?
lot.
'Cause we can talk to our people.
This is a third of the cost of
Of
the
that?
True Color, yeah.
That apartment building.
And they have the same qualities in the end?
No, the stain
Okay.
resistance is not as good with the Vivid because it is not a
So that's a
urethane based.
cementous drop.
But it was better than just regular cement, a standard sanded
That
ground.
was polyblend.
You don't have to seal it. It has a very low porosity rate. I'm telling you guys, if you use this, I'd be willing to bet the farm that you guys would really, really like it. But you're not gonna be working with it at the hospitals and stuff, because they want that superior stain resistance as we talked
No,
about.
we-
Anybody in
well,
here
we're-
not like polyblend?
We use it a lot.
Polyblend, you'd have to talk to Mike about that. I don't know, I'm not
Oh,
familiar. I've
everybody
used-
in here likes polyblend.
Yeah, I've used Permacolor a lot, it's very similar as far as the cleanup, but there's a lot more bells and whistles in this than Permacolor. I don't wanna knock Gary, I don't think he's even here, but
That's shit stupid.
Those
Permacolor Select
mix
Well, now
sucks.
you gotta add the color into it.
yeah.
Yeah.
See, this here, there's no adding nothing, there's no water, you just eyeball it and spin it.
Terrible.
It's good for them because they can keep one thing on the shelf.
Yeah.
You know, the color is that
Be like-
big, but when you're on the job, you gotta, it's another step you gotta do before you grow.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's awful.
But going back to the True Color, I know that that was the biggest problem that you guys have, it's the biggest problem I've always had. So believe me, you're not alone in this. Is there any questions about what we did or any tricks that you guys have, any complaints? Let's open up the floor and let's just talk True Color. What do you guys, is there anything you can add to the
Yeah.
conversation?
I gotta get tell Dwayne that he's not.
Are you guys comfortable? I know you're all using it. Are you comfortable with it? You might not like it, but are you comfortable with it?
Has anyone found any like good tips?
Other than what he just showed, yeah.
Is everybody pre-treating the way that I showed them with the Dawn dish liquid or a grout release? Is everybody doing that?
If you
I did
use,
down to
I've never done
Town
it. I've
Mercy
never
when
had
I
a
did
problem
what I
though.
did.
No. Have you?
I think what Brian referencing, you know, the difference from one job to the other, you know, as far as the temperature of the room, that can definitely play into how quickly it's gonna set up.
But
So you need to make sure that you're understanding that, hey, I need to maybe shorten my window, you know, as far as how much I'm gonna actually spread and clean, based upon the temperature, either on the job or actually of the face of the tile.
But the one thing, like you said, if you pre-treat with the Dawn water, it can dry.
It can dry
Still
or
uses
wet.
like a grout release.
Either way, wet or dry. I prefer to let it dry.
I mean, that's shocking, but.
It leaves behind, the blue dish liquid is what it leaves
Yeah.
behind. The water evaporates. That's your grout.
In another, like, I always use the Dawn, but I seen how blue your water was, so I probably wasn't using enough. So I was
Spin
trying
until
to-
the water turns
I was
blue.
trying to avoid the foam,
It happens though. Like Brian said, when you're
Yeah,
doing a
that's the
big
thing, like,
job.
Whenever you're wiping the floor, your whole bucket turns into
but
solid.
that was
Yeah.
the first thing I noticed was how blue your
sponge
water
goes, like,
was, so.
solid from all the
I'm gonna
soap.
try it, it's worth a
Well,
shot.
that's good that there's a lot of soap in your sponge. That's what we want on the face of the towel, because
Yeah,
that
but
comes
it
off.
doesn't soak up, it doesn't soak up anymore.
spray it on Dawn.
So you're wiping it 3 or 4 times. That's- I don't see any
But if you're on a real
advantage.
job and you do that early, you're gonna track so much dust.
All True Colors Rapid set, right? They don't make like a regular True Color that's not Rapid.
Just one.
No. It used to have a requirement of 7 days before you could open up the water, and they realized that's just not realistic, so now it's 72 hours.
And like the same steps you did here, would you use that with the dimensions the same way?
Yes.
The clear stuff?
Absolutely, because it's urethane, it's the same as this. And that's even harder in a way because you're only usually really using it with glass, which tends to really show that urethane. Now, you guys are familiar with the Blaze, I think. If not, we have a product. I didn't bring it down. We have some up on the table. It's called Blaze. If, in the event the next day you don't get it clean, you come back and you see some urethane haze, you can shoot the Blaze on it, white scratchy pad, and you're good. If you let it bake on there for several days, call Brian. He has some options that are way more aggressive.
That
But
text bar.
Yeah, TechSpar is a good product.
That's,
Nope.
that citric acid stuff, Let's Go or Let Go or whatever that is. Is that what that?
The TechSpar Plus has been approved
Yeah.
for cleaning up urethane-based grouts. Yes. I don't know about that.
Do you have to use a buffer with it? Or could you make it like a paste and use a doodle bug?
You could do it either way.
Okay.
You could do it either way.
Yeah.
So just to wrap it up, the pre-treat and then the second cleaning is absolutely key that you time it correctly. You don't want it to set up too much where it's baked on the towel. You don't want to get on it too quick where you're just spreading drought again. There's that window that only you can really determine that. And if you have a good helper, it's nice because you can keep grouting and he's coming behind you
Who's
doing
on the
that second
helpers?
cleaning. If you're by yourself, I know they don't grow on trees. If you're by yourself, just do small enough areas that you don't get ahead of yourself. Just like epoxy. If you get ahead of yourself, you're in trouble.
Could you use that for swimming pools?
Brian?
Submerged? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you can.
As long as you wait the requirement to fill it
Yes.
up. I've been asked that for outside, and let me tell you, it pressure washes great.
Well, the
But
thing
you have
is-
to tent it in case it's gonna rain, because who knows if it's gonna stay non-raining for 3 days.
Yeah, because the last couple like pools we did, it's like that clear epoxy, that Liscol or whatever it is.
Oh,
Lycol or whatever?
Yeah.
And I was like wondering the difference, if you could just use like the dimensions if it would, on a swimming pool, because it's, all they're going for is that clear grout. I just didn't know if it would submerge the chlorine, if True Color was approved for that.
That's one for the.
No,
big
that's a
guys.
good question. I'm gonna have to revert to tech service on that.
I know when I worked with Jamie on swimming pool products, they always recommended the Reflex with Vivid. And then they wanted to treat it you a single step advance for crack isolation first.
Yeah.
That gives you a full systems
You know
warranty
what?
for a pool.
Let me get that cleared up before I would make a commitment to that. I don't think
Well, because
so.
like when like we do the pools and it's, they got the glass band or it's all glass tile, they want that see-through grout. like-
translucency,
Like what
yeah.
the dimensions would be, but it's always out like all. It's actually for epoxy, it's really easy to use, but I was just wondering like, if you could like, no, you could use the True, because that stuff sometimes it takes 4 months to get.
I'll make a note of that, Marty, and then I'll get back to you. Is that
All
okay?
right, cool.
Brian? Anybody else have any other questions?
So you were allergic to epoxy?
Not that stuff. It's, no, it's environmentally.
Just when it's
No.
convenient for you.
It's environmentally, it's an environmental epoxy. So it don't have like the hazardous chemical part into it.
That's pretty neat.
Well, if you guys don't have any other questions, again,
Nothing like
thank
that
you. I
when I
appreciate
pull
you
'em
being here. It tells me you care about your trade. And I appreciate you coming and listening to us speak for a little while. If you ever have any questions, we have cards up on the table. I'm always in this area. I'll come to the job sites and help you. I'm sure Brian will do the same.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, guys and ladies.
All right, get a ticket.
Should I stop this now?
Stacks in for what I get one stack.
What stops it? The square one?
Well, that is, if you do say the
Do what's in the